So every once in a while, someone will come to me and ask me what my favorite Bible passage is. And one of the verses in the Bible that I usually go back to is Romans 8, verse 28. And what that verse says has the power to change the way you see your life. So Romans 8:28 simply says, "We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." And the thing that strikes me about this passage is that it doesn't talk about wishing for good things to happen or hoping or even having faith that good things will happen. That verse basically guarantees good for your life. And I don't really know you, I don't know your circumstances or what you're going through in your life today. And yet I can tell you that in all things, God works together for your good. Now, does that make you a little skeptical? I know for me, there can be days where it's really hard to believe what Romans 8:28 says. In some times of life, you might be in a real financial hardship. Debt keeps going up, credit card spending, maybe medical bills have contributed to it. Maybe you're in a tight spot and it's no fault of your own. And the financial hardships you have are a lot more than most people are even aware of. And yet, God says in all things he works together for your good, but where's the good in that? I know sometimes in your life also you go through some really hard relational times. Maybe even right now you're feeling hurt from a relationship that's broken. Maybe somebody abused your trust and you're not sure if you can trust them anymore. Maybe you're grieving the loss of a loved one and maybe they were even lost years ago and nobody knows the kind of grief or emptiness that you still feel. Where's the good in that? And maybe you even go through times in life where you're feeling like you're in a bad place health-wise, where you're not sure how things are going to go and the treatments you go through or the medicine that you use, it's taking a big toll on everything about you. Where's the good in that? If you've ever wondered where the good is in your life, I'm so glad that you're connecting with this video because in this series, I'm going to show you from other scriptures the good that God can bring from bad. And we're going to get into some specific situations in this series, but for this video, one thing I wanted to focus on is the person who wrote Romans 8, verse 28. His name was the Apostle Paul, and in the first century, he was writing these words to encourage some Christians. And the Apostle Paul is someone whose life you might relate with. He went through a lot of bad things. He was persecuted for his faith. He was made fun of. He was beaten and literally left for dead. And yet, as he writes these words in Romans 8, he believes them when he says, "In all things, God works for our good." And I hope by the end of this series, that's something you can believe too. Because the reason Paul knew all things work out for good is because Paul knew Jesus. And Jesus was persecuted. Jesus was beaten. Jesus wasn't just left for dead, but he was executed. But because Jesus rose from the dead, that guarantees that there is good in store for me and for you. So make sure you tune in for this next video. We're going to start getting really specific about how God, in different ways, can bring good even when bad things happen. But as we get started, I want to say a prayer for those who might be really struggling to find the good in this season of life. So I pray, dear Father, as we begin this series talking about the good that you can bring even when there's bad, would you use your word to give us wisdom and insight into how you work your kingdom in our lives? And more than anything, through these videos and our conversations, would you lead us to Jesus, who points us to everything good that you have in store for us? Bless us as we go into this series, and may it be a blessing for those who are part of it. Amen.
Did you enjoy this video? If so, we would love to share even more Jesus with you, even if you have a busy, on-the-go kind of life. Just click here, and you can find the audio version for this podcast, along with all the other podcasts that Time of Grace offers.